Mouth breather. There are a lot of people in this country who have a condition that I like to call pathological agreeableness. It is often coming from a very Judeo-Christian value system, but not always. It is basically just people who, they like their family, they love their family, they like their friends, they just want things to be peaceful and pleasant, and they don't want any trouble. And so whenever trouble comes knocking at their door, they will just kind of agree with whoever shouts the loudest, not because they actually agree, but just because they don't, they want to end the state of disagreement. They want to go along with whatever the majority seems to be saying, just so that things can get back to normal as quickly as possible. And if they don't get to have their normal back, then they get to have what is currently being referred to by the utterly horrifying phrase of the new normal. The people who just want to accept what is going on and not quarrel with it, not get all worked up about it, but just find an interpretation of events where they can kind of say, well, okay, we can just sort of go along with this and not, agree to disagree, which ironically is a very kind of a dangerous place to be at. If you're willing to support whoever is, if you're so averse to people causing trouble that you're willing to support people who cause trouble so that they will stop causing it, then that is, that puts you in a very bad place. A more skilled rhetorician than me could come up with a less obvious example, and thus would not be declared automatically wrong by Godwin's law, which I have a huge problem with. But I've mentioned before that I'm intellectually lazy, so I'm just going to go with the extremely obvious example. When people are talking about Nazi Germany, everybody blames Adolf Hitler and Joseph Goebbels and Heinrich Himmler and a few other people like that. But all of those crazy bastards who decided to cause a problem would not have gotten anywhere in their takeover of Germany if they had not been able to get not even a majority, but like a sizable minority, a large block of society who were just willing to go along with it. And a lot of those people didn't actually agree that the Jews needed to be gassed. They just... They didn't want trouble, and they saw obvious troublemakers saying we need to gas the Jews, and they didn't have any particular fondness of Jews themselves, so they were just like, yeah, okay, man, whatever you say, we'll, you go do you, and we won't get in your way because we don't want to make trouble. So this pathological agreeableness, this desire to just be meek and hope to inherit the earth after other people have sorted out whatever their differences are. That's why I tie it to the Judeo-Christian thing, because it is based on that idea that if you just become one more sheep among the flock and let the wolves tear each other apart, that things will somehow work out in your favor. And it is very contrary to what I believe to be the ethical way to live your life, which is that you take personal responsibility for things that you yourself do, and you take it upon yourself to take a stand for what you believe in and try to make a difference. Obviously, I'm throwing stones from within a glass house, but that's because I have been very thoroughly sealed into this glass house by the combined forces of a very large number of these agreeable people who have been putting me into the troublemaker box for a long time. And because I am a small... because I am just one person who doesn't have a lot of supporters, and I'm not really calling for violence, and even if I was, I wouldn't get very far because I can't find a number of other people to call for it at the same time. I'm not as crazy as the Hitlers and Himmlers of the world, so they have another box to put those people in as soon as they reveal themselves, and they're probably like watching me a little bit to make sure I'm not turning into one of those. And for what it's worth, being somewhat brainwashed by their system, I am trying very hard not to turn into one of those. So, but because I am not doing the thing that puts into the evil box, then they can put me into the harmless box instead. And I either way, I have no power, I have no ability to influence the reality that I'm forced to live within, because I am stuck in this mob of these people who are just willing to go along with whatever they're told by their authority figure, because they just don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to make waves. They don't want to be the nail that sticks up and gets hammered down, and thus they're also unwilling to be the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. I think I've compared and contrasted those two proverbs before and talked about how one of them is, in my opinion, fairly American and the other is fairly anti-American, and we seem to be backing the wrong one in this social media era, because that collectivist, agreeable mindset is being brought out by social media, which I really... It would be very easy for me to believe that, like, cell phone rays are programming people's brains and just turning them into more obedient sheep, but I think it's probably more an issue of the last couple of generations of people have not been doing their job as parents and have not raised children who are capable of effective conflict resolution. They either go to the psychotic extreme, like I do, where they just scream and rage and get put in a box, or they go to the collectivist extreme, where they become ciphers that have no true opinion of their own, and they will just support the group's decision even when the group is obviously wrong. There have been scientific studies done about the phenomenon, and as usual, I don't really have sources, so I can't point to the details. But people who I trust have said that they've done these studies about people. You'll show people a pair of lines, and one line is obviously longer, but people will say that the short line is the obviously longer line, and enough paid actors will lie about that, and then the people in the study who are not paid actors will be like, well, everybody agrees this short line is longer, so I guess this short line must be longer, and they'll just go along with it. Those are the people that I'm talking about, who become the power base of violent conquering revolutions, specifically because of how non-violent they are. And so I have a huge problem with the fact that ideology has been so thoroughly indoctrinated into us, and it was done over a long period of time. It's probably not going to be fixed in my lifetime, but I really hope that history will remember me as one pebble on an avalanche that eventually actually changed things for the better. I really want to see, if my ghost haunts this earth as I fully plan for it to do, then I hope that one day my ghost will get to see people who do not just blithely cooperate with collectivist authority and allow things that are obviously wrong to be supported just because they have widespread popular support. I want to see people who are willing to go against the grain, to be the one lone voice in the wilderness that stands up for what they believe to be right, regardless of what anybody else says, and actually does such a good job of it that they convince a few other people and at least form like a modest little kind of countercultural movement that goes down in history in a somewhat respectable way, even if they don't actually change the mainstream. To give an example from American history, the Quakers were a fairly admirable group, I think, and they did not convince all of society to adopt their ways, but they set a good enough example that for a while they were very positively remembered, and they might be directly linear ancestors of the people that I'm complaining about now, but it was a different time, it was a different reality back then. And based on, this might just be a matter of me not having done my research, but based on what I believe to be true, based on the sources that I've seen, it seemed as though for their time Quakers were admirable, and right now I don't know who I can really point to other than a handful of specific weirdos like myself. There doesn't seem to be any sort of a movement supporting what I believe is the necessary political change in the modern era. There are a lot of people saying that the system is broken, but very few people saying that they actually know how to fix it. And so even though there is objectively magnificent amounts of evidence that I am not capable of being the one to fix it, I don't see an awful lot of preferable alternatives. So I'm going to keep, I've picked my hill to die on. I'm going to keep waving my little flag around, regardless of whether anyone watches or not, and just hoping for the best.